House Democrats push forward today with a procedural move that could force a vote to increase the debt limit should negotiations between President Biden and Republicans collapse, moving despite signs of progress in the bipartisan talks to advance a long-shot plan to avert a default. In Florida, upset. Democrat wins Jacksonville mayor's race. That's the headlines coming out of Jacksonville today. Donna Deegan is only the second Democrat to be elected mayor of Florida's biggest city in the past 3 decades. Donna Deegan, a Democrat, was elected mayor of Jacksonville, shaking up the politics of Florida's largest city, where Republican mayors have been in power for all but 4 of the last 30 years. Deegan is a former television news anchor. She defeated Daniel Davis, a Republican endorsed by Governor Ron DeSantis, who had been seen as the likely favorite in the traditionally Republican stronghold. After a crowded primary, Sherrell Parker, a former state representative and city council member who campaigned on hiring more police, won the Democratic nomination for Philadelphia mayor last night, emerging decisively from a field of contenders who had vied to be seen as the rescuer of a struggling and disheartened city. If she wins in November, which is all but assured in a city where Democrats outnumber Republicans more than 7-1, Ms. Parker will become the city's 100th mayor and the first woman to hold the job. The Supreme Court today declined for now to block a new law in Illinois that bans assault-style weapons such as the AR-15 semi-automatic rifle, which has been used in multiple mass shootings. The decision in a brief unsigned order means the Illinois law enacted in the wake of a July 4th shooting in the city of Highland Park last year that killed 7 will remain in effect while legal challenges continue. The battle lines are drawn in what could be the hardest fought election of 2023. Kentucky Democratic Governor Andy Beshear will run for a second term against Republican State Attorney General Daniel Cameron. Cameron started the GOP primary as the front runner, but before he won the nomination yesterday, he had to fend off a challenge from opponents, including Kelly Craft, the former ambassador to the United Nations, who sank millions of her own dollars into her unsuccessful campaign. Well, Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley has called on New York Governor Kathy Hochul to pardon the Marine veteran who was seen in a video putting Jordan Neely in a fatal chokehold on a New York subway earlier this month. Neely, a homeless subway rider, was put in a chokehold for over 15 minutes. And so far, there has been no indictment by the grand jury of Daniel Penny. Black WGA strikers say they helped streamers boost diversity and wound up worse off. Some creators say Hollywood's shift towards streaming has helped improve representation in writers' rooms and on screens, but too often at the expense of good pay and job stability. You are listening and watching Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. This is hour 2 of Areva Martin in real time, and this is the hour where I go deep on a story that has a national impact, a story that impacts all of us. And today we're talking about mass trauma and how we as individuals and community deal with trauma. We're going to go one-on-one with a survivor of trauma, as well as talk with a psychologist who has some tips and strategies on how we can all process trauma when we come forward right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're not listening to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings on KBLA Talk 1580, you're missing out. Everybody wants to talk to Tavis.
That's one reason, by the way, why I'm so thrilled to have this conversation with you today. The 3 people I always most hoped would interview me were Phil Donahue, Studs Terkel, and Tavis Smiley. Donahue's retired, Terkel's deceased, so this is a real thrill for me. And the reason why I have such respect for what you do is you have a historically informed conversation of depth and detail.
Be sure to tune in to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings, 9 a.m. to 12 noon on your unapologetically progressive radio station, KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. They say the pen is mightier than the sword. At KBLA Talk 1580, we not only have a lot to talk about, we have a lot to write about. Politics, relationships, business, empowerment, and culture. The all-star roster at KBLA Talk 1580 has you covered.
That's what it's all about.
Be sure to follow us on all our socials for our latest book releases, op-eds, essays, and commentaries from our hosts. And, of course, download the KBLA 1580 app as we strive to remain your most trusted, credible, and reliable source for the issues you care about. This is unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
What up, baby?
I'm young, gifted, and black. At KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
Hey there, I'm Jared Hill, president of the National Association of Black Journalists of Los Angeles, and I just want to say thank you for the benevolent $10,000 donation and scholarships for the next generation of black journalists.
And I'm Haywood Galbraith, photojournalist and founder of the Minority Photojournalism Institute. Thanks, KBLA, for your generous $10,000 scholarship gift to help us train the next generation of black photojournalists.
Congratulations to all the students who will benefit from the scholarship dollars raised at our Black History Month luncheon, honoring black legends in LA media. When we come forward at KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us.
Access granted.
In a survey conducted by the public opinion research firm Eviderus, KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerged as the station of choice for black audiences in the Los Angeles media market and beyond. The survey also revealed that the vast majority of black audiences are concerned about the lack of black-owned media and are more likely to listen to talk radio that focuses on issues that impact the black community. For some reason, the other talk stations haven't quite figured that out.
If you think about KFI, well, KFI only has like a 3% black listenership. 3%. So there's a good 97% out there to support a station like KBLA.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Your black. Your black.
All right, you are listening and watching Areva Martin in real time, and this is hour 2. And today we're talking about trauma and how we cope with trauma, including mass trauma. I'm joined in this hour by Dr. Sabrina Njai. She's a psychotherapist who does a lot of work around mass casualties. And also Marie Christina Williams is joining us. She's an author, a speaker, and she has survived a very significant trauma. So we're going to talk today to both of them about how we as a community, how we as individuals, and how we, in particular as African Americans, deal with trauma. Thank you so much to both of you for joining me. I want to start with you, Marie. So tell us your story.
Oh, well, I grew up in Rwanda, and in 1994, it was genocide that was going around. I was 14 years old. But my trauma doesn't just start with the genocide. I had a childhood trauma. I was abused and I had a horrible life growing up. And so for me, I look back before even Rwandan genocide, I was struggling. I had a hard life. I was abused by my father. I was beaten every day. So I was told and brainwashed that I was good for nothing. I didn't deserve anything in my life. And I was completely treated like nobody. So that's where even today hurts the most, because when I look at my childhood and even before genocide, I look at my parents and where I was, how I grew up, or how I was raised, makes me sad to think that as a child, I thought I was worthless. And then during the Rwandan genocide, I was abused by entire community, the strangers that I didn't know. So my life was hard from the day one, from the day I was born, basically. So, yeah.
How have you, Marie, how have you been processing? So you talked about your father abusing you, obviously the genocide, what you witnessed and what you experienced during that period. Have you gone to therapy? Just what have you done to try to process any of the trauma that you've experienced?
So at my age today, looking back, I'm 43 years old. I never thought I would ever even turn 20 or 15. And every year for me is a blessing because as a child and also during genocide, I was told that I didn't deserve to live. I was worthless. I didn't deserve anything good in my life. I was basically, I was brainwashed to be angry. I was brainwashed to feel like I was worthless. And now looking back at my life, it was not my fault that I suffered. It was not my fault that I was abused by strangers. But, people like me, do always have issues sharing the stories, especially personal stories, especially when we're women and we're Black women, and we don't want to open up because we are scared to be judged by people, and my childhood was horrible, but when I look what happened to me during the genocide and the things I witnessed as a child, I was a teenager when I watched people dying. I was hiding in the jungle. I was desperate to have someone who can actually protect me and help me. So looking back about my childhood and combined with the genocide, I was angry. I had so much anger in me that I couldn't describe you how I felt at the time. And as years went by, all that I got, I came to realize that, you know what? I'm tired of being angry. It's time to make a change in my life. So that's what I did.
Thank you so much for sharing that story. And you said something that was so powerful, and that's about people feeling that it's okay, particularly women, to share stories of trauma for fear of judgment, shame, stigma. And we know that when people share their own personal stories, it has a healing quality to it, not just for them, but for people that hear that story. Dr. Njai, jump in here. How often have you heard someone explain or share with you what we all just heard Marie talk about in terms of her feelings, a feeling of anger because of the trauma that she had experienced?
Well, absolutely. Marie's feelings make perfect sense. And people who have experienced extreme trauma, in addition to what this beautiful woman just described, in addition to the anger and the rage, there's also a sense of shame that is pervasive, that sort of even takes over a woman's body when she has been violated repeatedly. And there's also, it also has an impact, not just on our emotional state, but a part of my work is to look at sort of the triangle of trauma and how it impacts all of us emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And so it leaves its hoofprints and its markings all over our entire being.
Mm-hmm.
So when you add the historical trauma that all of us have faced as Black people on this planet, and then add the historical trauma, the trauma that we experience as women.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing that I invite people to do is, like you said, to tell their story. And then the first thing I do is validate the entire story.
Right.
Whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it doesn't necessarily make sense to me as a person looking back, everybody's story makes sense. And then the behaviors that accompany those unresolved feelings can also range.
Let me stop you right there, Dr. Njai. You said something so important. So you said what you do is validate everyone's story.
Yes.
I'm thinking about so often when people share their stories, they don't get validation. They get judgment. They get questioned. They get, interrogated. They get folks who are suspect and, suspicious. Did that happen to you, Marie, when you first started sharing? Because for a lot of people, they may say, oh, my God, all of that couldn't have happened to one person. Or, you couldn't have survived all of what you experienced.
For me, I never felt like I had a voice. Okay. I was always quiet. I was ashamed of opening up to anyone. And I really didn't feel like anybody cared about me. And especially when I moved here in the United States and I have this heavy French accent. When I moved here, I never even thought in a million years that I would want to open up and share with anyone what happened to me, because my story is things I wanted to forget. I wanted to forget where I grew up at. I wanted to forget my childhood abuse. I want to forget definitely about genocide and the things I witnessed. So I had so many scars on my body, and I was always judged by it, to the point where I ended up doing plastic surgeries. I ended up doing a lot of laser treatments. I ended up rebuilding I have 2 knee replacements and trying to walk better so nobody really to mask the pain. So for me,
hold on, you had plastics. What part of your body did you have plastic surgery on?
Oh wait, I did. They had to rebuild the scar on my forehead and the back of my head because they hit me with machetes during the genocide. And I also had a lot of scars on my body, on my arms and my legs. And I was shot twice during the genocide. And also I had scars from my childhood, from my household. My father used to abuse me and beat me up and lock me in the closet. So for me, I wanted to mask who I used to be so I can start fresh. I was ashamed of who I was as a woman and as a person, and my past and my background. And I was even scared to open up about the things I witnessed as a teenager during the Rwandan genocide, because I was scared to get judged by people. You know, and especially it was times in my life where I had so much anger in me. I would hide. I would not want to see anyone. It was times when I tried to go counseling to get help. It didn't work for me because I would sit there and hear other women talk, and I would be like, wow, I wish I had your story, you know, because at least you have a parent who loved you. At least you had family, sisters, brothers who cared and nourished you, even if you suffered. But I came to realize one thing: we all have stories.
Right.
It doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter what happened to you. You have to learn how to accept your past. So for me, what actually helped me, it was when I opened up about my childhood, and slowly I started opening up about my past, and I ended up opening up to my friends. And every time I felt so much better about myself. I'm like, oh my God, I did this. And finally, I shared a piece of who I am to someone. So
Doctor, wow, what Marie explained or shared, I'm sure is, again, so much of what you hear in your practice, and so often that feeling of repressing it, like I want to forget about it, so let me remove everything that could remind me of that trauma. Is that the best thing to do? And when I say best, because that's like judgment itself, but from a clinical standpoint, what do you recommend? Is that something that you recommend that people do when they've gone through trauma?
Well, it makes sense that that's what people want to do. It certainly makes sense to want to run away from the story. But what I tend to guide people to do is to be okay with looking at the past without staring at it. That's typically what I tell my clients. This happened to you and this is true. But we don't have to stare at what happened in the past. We can honor the past and use it. And the question with people that have experienced extreme trauma is, what is supposed to grow from the cracks of this horrific life experience? What are we supposed to learn about ourselves? What are we supposed to do with ourselves after it. I also heard Marie talk about sitting with a counselor. And sometimes the sitting with one counselor may not always be the therapy that someone needs to take in the immediacy. What I have found in my work is that it works better to have people be in a group setting, to have people feel that validation, not just from a one-on-one experience, but from multiple people sitting in a circle saying, yes, that happened to me. Oh my gosh, I thought I was the only one that had that story. Mm-hmm. And then to not just talk, but to also move and learn to breathe, learn how to bring the nervous system back into balance, learn how to reconnect with our bodies, because when we experience the kinds of things that Marie is describing, we often disassociate from our own bodies. So to learn how to come back into your body, to learn how to pat your legs, stomp your feet, shift, while also telling a story, to use tools that include writing, that also include using the imagination to harness a different degree of inner power and spiritual power. So all of these elements work to bring about healing that are more than just two people sitting together rehashing a horrific life story.
Yeah.
So how does someone, I guess, Dr., what you're saying, is this, do you do these things along with traditional psychotherapy? Do you do these things in lieu of? How do you incorporate these practices into your life, and how do they fit with traditional therapy?
Well, you know, what's interesting is traditional therapy is quite a bit of the opposite of what we're practicing now in Western psychotherapy. Western psychotherapy is like, what is the symptom? Let me fix it. And real traditional therapy is about a community coming together and lifting someone up. So my approach to therapy is very community oriented. So yes, I do see people one-on-one, but I'm always encouraging people to move into a group setting, to move into having retreats, to move into a space where it's bigger than just them. Right. To allow healing to sort of seep into our bones requires us to move away from the isolation. And that shame that I talk about gets lifted in that. So yes, everything I teach is rooted in a little bit of both. I mean, I'm very I don't really like the word Afrocentric because it implies some sort of limitation for me, but it is very much rooted in my identity as a Black woman, but also rooted in my identity as a woman of African descent, and then rooted in all these acronyms and degrees that I have. So all together make my approach to psychotherapy. And I believe that psychotherapy is, in and of itself, is an act of love. It's an act of self-love to choose it, and an act of love between a therapist and his or her patient as well.
Marie, have you been involved in any group settings or sessions the way that Dr. Njai describes? Have you had that kind of healing work in your own life?
No, okay, so first of all, she's right. I agree with her 100%. So I tried one-on-one therapy. It didn't work for me. I got more angry. I remember when I started the therapy, it was just after the genocide. Everything was just fresh. I couldn't even feel my legs. I was in a wheelchair for 4 years. So basically, I had so much anger in me that I didn't want to open up. And it was, so of course, I did the therapy. The lady, she would come in and she would talk to herself, and I would wave bye-bye, and I didn't want to talk to her. I didn't want to open up. I remember people like me who went through so much trauma. We always ask the same question. I'm sure Sabrina, she probably had the same issues. We always ended up asking our therapist, did you go through this? Do you understand how I feel? Are you in my shoe? You are not my shoe. And mostly the therapists, they respond to you like, No, but I know, I understand how you feel. But she's right. When I did a group therapy, that's when I found myself. So I sat there, I heard everybody complaining and talking, and of course, I didn't say nothing. And I went back and I would just pass. I didn't want to talk. I wasn't ready to open up. And so I remember the third time, one of the ladies who was
Maria,
there.
I'm sorry. I need you to hold that thought. We definitely want to hear what happened with your next experience with therapists. We got to do some news and some sports. So we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580 more about how we are processing stress and trauma right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest bar,
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
The bounce is back.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head.
This is a rather bold pronouncement, but we think we can back it up. If you come across a radio frequency anywhere putting more variety and more diversity on the air than KBLA Talk 1580, we sure would like to hear about your discovery.
You got to have vision.
You can search, but we are confident that you won't find more shows covering more topics, hosted by a more diverse and inclusive lineup of talkers than the squad we have assembled here at KBLA Talk 1580.
This is the time, brothers. This is the time.
We've got something for everybody.
That's right.
Health and healing, history and humor, issues and events, empowerment and entertainment, all in one station.
What's really going on?
Free enterprise, you dig?
KBLA Talk 1580.
Yes.
Oh yeah. We got a lot to talk about.
King Kong ain't got on me.
If you're not listening to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings on KBLA Talk 1580, you're missing out. Everybody wants to talk to Tavis.
That's one reason, by the way, why I'm so thrilled to have this conversation with you today. The three people I always most hoped would interview me were Phil Donahue, Studs Terkel, and Tavis Smiley. Donahue's retired, Terkel's deceased, so this is a real thrill for me. And the reason why I have such respect for what you do is you have a historically informed conversation of depth and detail.
Be sure to tune in to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings, 9 a.m. to 12 noon on your unapologetically progressive radio station, KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580.
Is the pen mightier than the sword?
They say the pen is mightier than the sword. At KBLA Talk 1580, we not only have a lot to talk about, we have a lot to write about. Politics, relationships, business, empowerment, and culture. The all-star roster at KBLA Talk 1580 has you covered.
That's what it's all about.
Be sure to follow us on all our socials for our latest book releases, op-eds, essays, and commentaries from our hosts. And, of course, download the KBLA 1580 app as we strive to remain your most trusted, credible, and reliable source for the issues you care about. This is unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
What up, baby?
I'm young, gifted, and black.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
Hey there, I'm Jared Hill, president of the National Association of Black Journalists of Los Angeles, and I just want to say thank you for the benevolent $10,000 donation and scholarships for the next generation of black journalists.
And I'm Haywood Galbraith, photojournalist and founder of the Minority Photojournalism Institute. Thanks, KBLA, for your generous $10,000 scholarship gift to help us train the next generation of black photojournalists.
Congratulations to all the students who will benefit from the scholarship dollars raised at our Black History Month luncheon honoring black legends in LA media. When we come forward at KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us.
Connection established. Access granted.
In a survey conducted by the public opinion research firm Eviderus, KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerged as the station of choice for black audiences in the Los Angeles media market and beyond. The survey also revealed that the vast majority of black audiences are concerned about the lack of black-owned media and are more likely to listen to talk radio that focuses on issues that impact the black community. For some reason, the other talk stations haven't quite figured that out.
If you think about KFI, well, KFI only has like a 3% black listenership. 3%. So there's a good 97% out there to support a station like KBLA.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Your black. Your black.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at KBLA 1580.
Follow the leader.
Are you ready?
The station leading the way with exclusive interviews,
Follow the leader.
stimulating conversation, and intellectual discourse that empowers, enlightens, and informs.
Follow the leader.
Follow the leader at KBLA 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Keep following the leader. Follow 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 the leader.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest bar, shot with a rest bar, shot with a rest bar.
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station.
We are back, and I'm joined in this hour by Dr. Sabrina Njai. She's an integrative psychotherapist and founder of the Hartness Center for Peace and Healing. Dr. Njai travels the country, really helping individuals deal with mass trauma. She has been working in Buffalo since the 2022 mass shooting at Tops Grocery Store. Also joining me in this hour is Marie Christine Williams. She's an author and speaker. She's a current St. Louis resident who was born in Romania, but she has lived through a genocide. Her mother's parents were Jewish Holocaust survivors. She was brutally attacked by Hutu extremists at the age of 14. I want to shout out Conscious Campus, who connected us with Marie Christine. Thank them for giving us an opportunity to hear your very powerful story. And right before the news, Marie, we were talking about your attempt to get therapy, how you said individual therapy wasn't very effective for you. Did you ever find any type of therapy that you thought was helpful?
Yes, a group therapy helped me a lot because once I started hearing other people's problems and stories and how they overcame and what helped them, I opened my mind and I was like, you know what? I needed to try something because I was tired being angry. I was tired hiding my pain. And I was actually tired being embarrassed about where I came from and who I am as a person. So as a Black woman, I was even more embarrassed about how I looked and the judgments from different people. And because these days people judge you without knowing who you are and your story and where you came from. So once I found a good group therapy, I opened up slowly. In the beginning, I wasn't comfortable, but I always tell people, you have to be open-minded. It's so important to get help. If you're struggling, it's important to reach out to someone who can listen to you. Don't be like me. Don't hide your pain. Try, do something, write a notebook like I did. That's how I ended up writing my book. Everything started as writing my problems, my pain, my childhood, and I ended up opening up to the point where I thought my story was valuable to share with people who's struggling. And that's why I tell people, we all have stories. Our stories are different, but we have to embrace who we are We have to accept our past, and we need to reach out for help. We need to find someone who can work with us and help us grow. And that's what I did.
So, Dr. Enya, you obviously are a big proponent of groups and people coming together in groups. And Marie is talking about how she found the best and the most effective therapy to be that group therapy. Why then in America do we always push people, it seems like, towards finding a therapist and going to therapy in those one-on-one individual sessions?
I think part of the reason is a lot of people, despite the fact that it's Mental Health Awareness Month and there's been lots of conversation, a lot of people sort of miss the understanding between something that is therapy and something that is therapeutic. Mm-hmm. And not everybody really understands that going to therapy, sitting one-on-one with a person should be a part of someone's plan for healing. But it is not the be-all and end-all of anyone's regimen for healing, if that makes sense. So,
no, it absolutely does.
Yeah, so going to see a one-on-one therapist can be extremely healing. In addition to being in a group setting, in addition to finding your people, your community, because nothing can harm us and create more inflammation and discord in the body than that sense of loneliness that happens after a traumatic life event. And I think one of the things that you touched on earlier in your conversation with Marie is how judgmental people can often be. And we've had in the several years that I've been responding to mass shootings, which are acts of war, we've had almost 1,000 mass shootings. And I can't even keep track of the number. But while I'm listening to you and Marie, I'm remembering one woman I knew who was a Black woman, just happened to be a Black woman, who was at the Las Vegas mass shooting in October 2017. And she reached out to me because she knew what I did for my work. And someone told her to call me. So she ended up getting my cell number and called me. And the first thing she said was, well, I went to church. And the first thing people said to me at my church was, well, what were you doing there? It was a bunch of white people there. As if she had committed a crime by sitting at a concert.
And what difference did it matter what color the people were?
Exactly. Oh, wow.
What did that have to do with anything? And then how did it confound her trauma? She ran, she got away by the skin of her teeth, and also pulled other people down from getting shot that day. And she was also shot and harmed and broke bones and couldn't work and couldn't be around any loud noises. All these things were happening to her. And some people had the audacity to respond with, what were you doing there in the first place?
Well, let me ask you this, Dr. Enya. I'm listening to you about group, and I'm sitting here thinking, that could be also a very intimidating place and a very intimidating process to go into a group of people you don't know. Now, one-on-one is already scary enough, right? But you're thinking about your confidences. You're thinking about, people's ability to keep your information confidential or discreet. How do you, prepare to go into a group setting with unknown people and become vulnerable and reveal personal traumatic experiences like my father abused me? I mean, that is so personal for so many people. How do you do that in a group?
Well, it's fascinating. Well, first thing, you need to make sure that you have a strong facilitator holding the space, right? And what I have found is people show up in my groups, they're like, I can't even believe I shared this. They say things like, I've been holding this for 40, 50, 60 years, and finally it's out. And there's something, I don't want to call it magic, but there is something very magical that happens when 7 to 10 people sit in a circle with one facilitator who is a facilitator and also a full participant. Because when I'm facilitating a group, I'm not, I'm Dr. So-and-so and you better bow to me. I'm Sabrina, a woman who's also got some experience. So I'm like this much ahead of you. And when we get into this group and we start by learning how to breathe, and I teach these women, men, whoever's in my group at that particular time, how to bring their nervous system into balance, it comes out, and we're all, every time it happens, I don't know how many groups I've run, maybe 500 at this point. It never fails. I'm always like, whoa, did that just happen? Did we all just feel that? And people are always amazed. Like, I didn't know, but I just told you something that no one knows about me. And there's something powerfully healing in having that space. So I'm not worried about my sister necessarily mentioning it at Thanksgiving. So there's a safety in knowing I may never see this person again. I can move it. I can get the validation I need. I can learn some skills, and I can keep moving. So my goal is to give people some skills and then allow them to fly.
Okay, I know, I'm just fascinated with this. I got to ask you this. Wow. So you mentioned, I'm not worried about the person that talks about it at Thanksgiving dinner. Do you recommend people that receive this kind of group therapy, that they do it in a group of people they know or strangers?
Well, most people end up being more comfortable in a group full of strangers. It sounds wild, but it really depends. It depends on a lot of factors. One, if there's a community-wide trauma, you're going to know the people in your group. You're probably going to know people in the group.
Right.
And also, if this whole community has experienced something together, I'm also going to lay down some ground rules. The key is really in the facilitator being able to hold the space. So I don't make it my participants' responsibility to make sure people are safe. It's my responsibility as a facilitator to make sure people are safe. And in all my years of doing this work, I almost never have to ensure confidentiality. People know, and people agree to it. And if there's ever a breach, they know I'm also going to put them out. Okay. I don't have a problem with that.
Well, when we come forward, we'll continue this conversation with Dr. Sabrina Njai and Marie Christine Williams about trauma and processing trauma. And it is Mental Health Awareness Month. So this is such an important topic for all of us, and particularly African American communities. Stay with us right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're not listening to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings on KBLA Talk 1580, you're missing out. Everybody wants to talk to Tavis.
That's one reason, by the way, why I'm so thrilled to have this conversation with you today. The three people I always most hoped would interview me were Phil Donahue, Studs Terkel, and Tavis Smiley. Donahue's retired, Terkel's deceased, so this is a real thrill for me. And the reason why I have such respect for what you do is you have a historically informed conversation of depth and detail.
Be sure to tune in to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings, 9 a.m. to 12 noon on your unapologetically progressive radio station, KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580.
Is the pen mightier than the sword?
They say the pen is mightier than the sword. At KBLA Talk 1580, we not only have a lot to talk about, we have a lot to write about. Politics, relationships, business, empowerment, and culture. The all-star roster at KBLA Talk 1580 has you covered.
That's what it's all about.
Be sure to follow us on all our socials for our latest book releases, op-eds, essays, and commentaries from our hosts. And, of course, download the KBLA 1580 app as we strive to remain your most trusted, credible, and reliable source for the issues you care about. This is unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
What up, baby?
I'm young, gifted, and black. At KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
Hey there, I'm Jared Hill, president of the National Association of Black Journalists of Los Angeles, and I just want to say thank you for the benevolent $10,000 donation and scholarships for the next generation of black journalists.
And I'm Haywood Galbraith, photojournalist and founder of the Minority Photojournalism Institute. Thanks, KBLA, for your generous $10,000 scholarship gift to help us train the next generation of black photojournalists.
Congratulations to all the students who will benefit from the scholarship dollars raised at our Black History Month luncheon honoring Black legends in LA media. When we come forward at KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us.
Connection established. Access granted.
In a survey conducted by the public opinion research firm Eviderus, KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerged as the station of choice for Black audiences in the Los Angeles media market and beyond. The survey also revealed that the vast majority of Black audiences are concerned about the lack of Black-owned media and are more likely to listen to talk radio that focuses on issues that impact the Black community. For some reason, the other talk stations haven't quite figured that out.
If you think about KFI, well, KFI only has like a 3% Black listenership. 3%. So there's a good 97% out there to support a station like KBLA.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your Black. Your Black. Your Black.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at KBLA.
All right, we are back. And so I'll ask you, Marie, did you have any hesitation about speaking freely when you did finally go to group therapy?
In the beginning, I wasn't comfortable sharing because I didn't want to open up, and mostly everything I didn't want to share, and I'm sharing now about my childhood and about genocide, about my household, is certain things I never shared, even with my first husband. I never shared my childhood with him because I didn't know how he was going to act with that until the day he died. I felt guilty. I felt very guilty because I never opened up. After he passed away, I moved to Sango West. I wanted to make changes. I wanted to open up to somebody, anybody who could hear me or listen to me. But in the beginning, with the group therapy, I wasn't comfortable. But once I got to know them, I gave it a chance. I kept trying. One day, I even don't know how the magic happened. I opened up. And that was the first day of my healing process. I felt so much different. I remember the first time I shared who I am, where I came from, and the things I went through. I remember driving back home, talking to myself in French. I'm like, wow, I can't believe I just did this. I can't believe I just shared with these people what happened to me. I cried all the way home. And by the time I parked my car, I went in the house, I took a quick shower. I was still crying. I went to bed. And the next day, when I woke up, I felt like something different happened in my heart. I felt like I was a completely different person. And then I went back, and then I wanted more. I wanted to feel more. And it helped me so much that I wanted to go and share my story with girls, young abused girls at Marian Middle School here in Sango West. And I opened up to them because when I looked at them, I saw me. Right. And then I felt comfortable. I felt like I fit in. I opened up even more. I embraced them. I embraced who I am. Things started changing for me. And today, when I look back about my childhood, about the trauma, everything I went through, I always tell people, find a group therapy that works for you. Find help, because I know help is there. If somebody can help me, they can help you too. Right. So try to find a way to change your life.
So Dr. NJ, tell us what else? Group therapy, important, you said. Sometimes one-on-one therapy can be important. What else should we do as humans that experience trauma, whether it's mass trauma like a shooting or genocide, what Marie went through, or individual trauma? Someone may be personally assaulted or physically assaulted. To what you've shared with us today, are there other things that you recommend we do to process trauma?
Absolutely. So when we have a traumatic life experience, like I mentioned earlier, it hits us in three ways. It hits us physiologically, emotionally, and spiritually. And all of these elements work together in making us healthy or to bring our bodies out of balance. And so one thing that is the most important thing, well, one of the most important things to do after traumatic life experience is to literally move. So after we have an experience, I know you all are familiar with fight, flight, freeze.
Right.
So we all have a fight, flight response. And once we're out of danger, other animals in the animal kingdom, when the danger subsides, they literally shake their bodies. You've seen it you've seen it in real life. You've seen it in film. You've seen dogs and fish shake. Humans are the only animals, because they're thinking so hard, they forget that they have a body after there's a trauma. And so one thing that I get people doing is just literally moving. And how it relates to who we are as African people is I get people to move to the beat of a drum. The drum is mimicking the mother's heartbeat, right? Everybody lived inside of a woman, and there was a beat, boom, boom, boom. So sometimes when people first see me for the first time, I'm playing drumming music, and I'm just getting them just to get their bodies moving again. I want to know how they're eating. These are elements that are therapeutic that don't necessarily require a therapist, but they have to happen in order for healing to happen. You can't just talk about it. You have to do some action steps to bring all of the elements into balance. So I want to know what people are eating. I want to know what they're doing for fun. I want to know how they are tapping into their creativity. Are they singing? Are they drawing? Are they laughing? All of these are healing elements that don't cost anything and don't require any research. But we all have the capacity to sing, to bring ourselves back into balance. So I do laughter with clients. And one thing I'm measuring with them is, how much do you laugh? How are you letting go of waste? How often are you using the bathroom? Because if these elements are tight, then everything else is also tight. And then in terms of spirituality, some people have churches that they want to attend. Some people attend mosques or synagogues. Some people just need to sit in nature. And that is how they reconnect with their own divinity. And so I'm encouraging people to sit in nature, to go outside. Sometimes my homework might be just go outside, take off your shoes, and feel the grass in your toes for 20 minutes, half an hour. All of these elements bring us back into balance, because the goal after a major trauma is to decrease the inflammation, the physiological, the emotional, and the spiritual inflammation, and to increase our parasympathetic nervous system, which is the opposite of fight flight. It's the relaxation response. And so I'm always trying to get people to move into that place of relaxation. And sometimes it's as simple as naming appreciations that they have for themselves. Moving back into falling back in love with who you are right now. You're a new creation. This thing happened to you. You're not the same person anymore. You are a new, complete creation. How do we honor who you are right now? Because it's different. Everything is different. It's new.
Does any of your work, doctor, ever, again, I'm thinking of traditional therapy, talk therapy, where someone's talking to a psychotherapist, and they have homework, right? They tell them to go and, practice anger management or do certain things. Is that a part of your healing process?
Homework? Absolutely. It's always homework. It's always, what do you do? So you come here and you sit with me, and now I want to know how you're going to apply this experience with me to your outside world. And my homeworks vary, but very often it involves sort of three elements. It involves something tactile, like I mentioned before, going outside and putting toes in the grass and feeling the ground, feeling grounded again. It usually involves some kind of movement, like I named earlier. It might involve learning how to mindfully chew food again.
Okay.
So
these are like deep, I'm thinking like deep psychological things. They're just things getting you in touch with your body.
Yes. And then also, I want people to tap into their own innate wisdom, because that's also very validating.
Right.
Because we already know a lot. And so sometimes just seeing someone like me or another therapist is about validating, oh, yeah, you know what? I kind of do know what to do. And I'm remembering things that I forgot.
Wow. Very, very helpful. Thank you so much, Dr. Sabrina Njai. She's an integrative psychotherapist and founder of the Heartness Center for Peace and Healing. Thank you for sharing all of your brilliance.
Thank you.
Wisdom. And thank you, Marie Christine Williams, Arthur Speaker, for sharing your powerful story and for, helping so many young girls and women. And again, shout out to Conscious Campus, who connected us with Marie Christine. It is Mental Health Month, and we all should be paying attention to and making sure we're doing something to nurture our own mental and emotional health. Thank you. I'm out.
Thank you.
Okay. Martin. And the next voice that you hear will be Robin Ayers and the Raw Report right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Thank you.
Get off the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head.
This is a rather bold pronouncement, but we think we can back it up.
The mayor of New York City